Welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts. I'm your co-host, Jeffrey Walk.
And I'm Elizabeth Finlayson. We're from the networking group, TNG, which is Chicago's premier business networking group focused on helping members and making a difference in the communities we serve. Ask the Experts is an effort to share our knowledge with a wider audience.
Each week, Ask the Experts responds to questions from individuals and organizations about a problem they have faced.
We always welcome questions and feedback, and you can reach us at asktheexperts@gmail.com. That's asktheexperts, all one word, @gmail.com. On to this week's episode. Hi, in today's episode, we will explore ways finding your why can impact your leadership and results. Our guest today is Kim Svoboda, who runs Aspiration Catalyst out of the Chicagoland area and serves clients across the country. Many of our listeners and followers want to learn more, so we asked Kim to provide some of her expertise and share a few helpful suggestions.
Kim, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us about your company and the services you offer?
I would be happy to. And thank you, Jeffrey and Elizabeth, for having me on today. It's such an honor to be on your Ask the Experts podcast. My company, Aspiration Catalyst, I founded almost 5 years ago. And I work with leaders and their teams to make them bold, excuse-proof, and goal-crushing. So what the heck does that mean? Basically what we do is we figure out what are the ways that we can all work together most effectively, and how do we help drive accountability, right, from the ground level all the way up and back down again, so that we can achieve great things together. I think especially in times like now where, right, it certainly is a much more challenging business environment. Many of my clients, we've been able to figure out how to help them achieve their goal that they had set even long before COVID and all these things hit. But the way that we're going about it is just a little bit different. So the what is staying the same, the how is the thing that we're changing. That's the work that I do, and the impact that I love to help my clients, make in their businesses.
So Kim, you mentioned this tricky time that we're in. So what should great leaders be doing today to recover revenues and drive growth?
Yeah, well, that is like the $1 million or $1 billion or $1 trillion question, isn't it? So it's definitely like, number one, don't throw in the towel. Like, don't do that, right? That is not necessary. In fact, like, my business is actually on track to do even better than I did last year. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. One is keep moving. Just keep moving. Figure out what your clients need from you right now, right? Maybe it's changed a bit, right? Whatever services or products you were offering prior to, right, this time of turbulence that we're in, how has it changed? And is there something that you could modify, right, to better suit their needs now? Or do you actually need to, like, take a turn and do something different, right? So that you can really meet your clients where they are today. I also believe, getting your team together and figuring out, like, what are the new ways that we need to do things. As an example, I have a great client who loves to meet people at trade shows and gets a lot of clients, right, from going to these trade shows, building relationships with them, in person. And guess what? There's no trade shows going on right now. You can't do that anymore. So, well, we had some options, right? We could say, well, guess we can't sell anything more this year. We're done. Let's close up shop and head to, I don't know, whatever country will take us at this point right now. Or we can instead figure out how we can do this differently. So if we can't go to trade shows, what are some of the things that we can be doing to build up, right, our prospect database? And so we're going to existing clients. What else could we be doing for them? They love us already. We know they love us. They chose us. They've done maybe one or several projects with us. How can we get more from them? So how do we expand within our existing relationships? Two, existing clients are always the best place to get new clients, right? They love you already. So they'll send you referrals, right? So going after referrals, how do we do that? 3, what other avenues do we have available to us? Can you get on some super cool podcast or ask the experts type show, right? And is that a place where your clients might be checking in, right, to learn something new and would see you on there and want to, hire you as a result? So it's a matter of, right, looking at today's landscape. How has it changed, and how do we need to be showing up and operating differently? I also think, like, the accountability piece, this one's really challenging for a lot of my clients right now. So they're like, I feel like I can't hold people accountable because they're hurting and it's really hard and they're at home and, are we going to make our numbers? We don't know, whatever. So I look for, how do we first, right, find our new ways of generating business or, right, meeting the needs of our clients. 2, how do we celebrate those successes, right, that we're having, the small wins? Because as you get the small wins create momentum towards the bigger wins, right? So there was a client I was working with yesterday, and one of the things that she found out was that she had 2 people on her team that were supposed to get promotions. Guess what? All promotions are on hold right now. These people have done nothing wrong. They did everything right. They absolutely should be getting these promotions. So what can you do instead? Well, she got a little bit more money for them, so they're going to get a little bit of a bump in pay, right? So that's nice. That's recognition of, right, my hard work has paid off. Also, I go, what about getting your boss to send them an email? Hey, I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate you and all the hard work you've been doing, particularly, right, and the more you can get into specifics, this project where you really impacted the bottom line and we actually saved so much money because of this, like getting into the details and really helping them see how they're making a big impact on, their team, the projects, and their organization, as well as, what are some of the other things you could do? Send them a nice handwritten card, right, recognizing their efforts. Have you could send them like a gift box. I got a really cool one from someone that was thanking me for helping them find a new job. And it was like, as much as it was like there was cool stuff inside of it, it was the whole way it was presented and the quality and just like the thoughtfulness. I was like, that's so cool. So there's a million different ways for us to, recognize the small things, celebrate the wins, and create momentum. And the more that we make progress, right, on the small things, the more we can see sort of that finish line in sight. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can actually get there, right? And so those are a lot of the things that we're working on with our clients here at Aspiration Catalyst.
I really appreciate the specificity with which you answer that question. I think that's going to be really helpful for somebody who is tuning into this. So I hear you kind of saying things about like not shutting down. I think that makes sense. I've seen that with my own clients as well. What mistakes should leaders avoid making as they reopen, in this new economic reality?
Yeah, well, I think there's a number of them. And I think that, it is challenging. And you have to really be aware of, I think, how your people are feeling. I think that connecting with your employees, like on a more personal level, I think is really important right now. So empathy, just understanding, what they might be concerned about, listening, spending a lot of time listening right now. There was one client who was sharing with me, she was having a challenge with her boss. And so she's like, what should I do about it? And I'm like, well, when you're, in your next one-on-one, and she stops me and laughs. And she's like, one-on-one? Ever since the pandemic hit, we haven't had a one-on-one because she's too busy and she can't, have one-on-ones with her team anymore. And I was like, if there's one thing you're going to do right now, have one-on-ones with your team every single week. They're in the absence of information, right? When there's no communication, people make up really negative stuff. Our brains are just wired this way. Like, it's not like they're negative people necessarily, but in the absence of information, our brains go into protect mode, right? And so they're like, oh no, she must not think I'm not doing a good job, or, must not be happy with me, or, all these different things. And so keeping that regular communication, I think, is absolutely critical. And understanding where your employees are at, what are their concerns? Is there something that you can do to mitigate some of that? And, just really keeping in tune with them. And then, as well as like helping them see, like, here's where we're going. Remember, this is our goal. Here's why it matters. Here's what your role is in this. Here's what our team's role is in this. This is why it's good for our clients. So let's keep going, right? And keeping them motivated and inspired, right, to go after that finish line. In this world that we're living in right now, what we can control sometimes feels like it's not much, but guess what? We can control our actions. We can control the way that we're thinking about things, and we can control, right, like our daily, sort of activities and the momentum that we each create. So stay within your circle of influence, worry about that, and do what you can do with where you're at, with what you have.
Those are great messages, Kim. I think the idea of providing meaning and explaining the why is really a big part of that. And I know you're a big fan of Simon Sinek, and the book club that you started with, that was great. It would be great to hear a little bit more about, this why-driven leadership and how that can be applied to small or medium-sized companies that are struggling right now.
Yeah. Well, I think like everybody has a why, right? That was one of the things that Simon shared with us, right? And your why is different than my why, different than Elizabeth's why. And so really spending the time to think about what that is and connecting with it. And I feel like this is a great time to do that because, in times like this where there's so much challenge and so much struggle around, isn't it a great time to like take a step back and say, why am I doing this? Why does it matter, right? Am I making the impact that I want to make? Am I being the type of leader that I always dreamed of being, right? Am I being the type of leader that anyone would want to follow? Would I want to follow me, right? Those are some of the questions that, I'm challenging a lot of the leaders I work with to, let's dive into this and let's figure it out because, I think we get very busy. I think that we sort of get into this, routine of, we're just going. I think also there is, sort of this phenomenon of we put our head down, we're just going to survive it. And, we'll see what happens when we get to the other side, wherever that is. If we, do we know where the other side is? And I think instead, like, let's take a step back. Let's be reflective. Let's think about what our why is, right? What are our values? How do they filter the choices, the decisions, the actions that we take on a daily basis? So like for me, right, I've got, 5 values that I, I'm very passionate about. Family is one of them. Adventure is another. Growth, right, is another one. And so I try to think about, how can I make sure that those things are well served by the decisions that I make in my life, right? In my business, as well as personally, right? So for me, like one of the byproducts of working from home all the time now is I get a lot more time with my family. And that is awesome, right? Like I'm not commuting, I'm not flying anywhere, like I'm home every single night. And so now like the hallway conversations with my kids are just happening more spontaneously. And that's amazing, right? I'm in the kitchen and my daughter will come in and, she'll start asking me about, I don't know, something random. It might be something that's in the news, or it might be like some challenge she's having with a friend. And I'm like, this is so cool. I can be in my business upstairs and I can walk 20 steps downstairs, and all of a sudden I get to like serve my top value of family as well. I think one of the more challenging ones has been adventure. So like we're trying to stay home and, be safe and not, be out and about too much so that we're not exposed to the germs out there and all that and the virus. But we went camping this weekend, right? So we could, serve our adventure, by doing some hiking on the Ice Age Trail and some cool stuff that way. And then I think about that for my clients, like encouraging them to take vacation, to take some time off, to not just, maybe don't go to Vegas, I get, and sit in the casinos. That probably wouldn't be a good idea. But if you're in a campground in Wisconsin, like chances are you're probably, right, you're okay. There's lots of air around you and lots of distance. And so what are the ways that you can continue to serve your whys, right? The things that you do, even when the times are challenging. I think, the other thing that's kept me going, momentum wise is, family is my top value. And part of my family why is to make sure that I have a really successful business so that I can, support their very expensive horse habits and, things like that. And so I never took my foot off the gas, I guess, in terms of my business, but figured out instead, what do my clients need from me right now? How can I be best serving them? How do I adjust my offerings so that I can still, reach them and provide the value that they need? And so that's what I've done. And my business is, as busy or busier than it was before. Everybody has this same opportunity to do this, right? And if you're doing it from your why, then you're going to keep going. Like that momentum will get created and you will definitely, right, keep moving. So I think it's a good approach to take.
So you do a lot of work with leadership and strategy planning. Do you see that great leaders are why driven as well?
I do. I think that great leaders are really in tune with themselves. So in order to be a great leader, you have to first lead yourself, right? That's the most important thing. And when you are in tune with yourself and you know what really matters to you, you will operate in a way that's very full of integrity, right? Integrity meaning in alignment with you. And when you do that, that feels good to everyone around you too, because they can feel your authenticity, like, oh, like he or she actually like means what they say. I can see it. They're not just feeding me the company line or, whatever. They're not giving me the management line, right? I used to hear from some of my employees back in my Fortune 500 days. But I think that being in touch with yourself, being intentional about who you are, how you're showing up, how you're leading, that absolutely is I think the secret, right, behind the greatest leaders is that integrity is so high and so strong.
Yeah, that's a great combination of terms. I think integrity, authenticity, I think those are the keys.
I have a great story if you humor me for just a second here. So Gandhi, right? This great story. I love Gandhi. Like he had some amazing stories, but this one was especially good. So this mother has a son who is ill because he keeps eating so much sugar, and he should not be eating the sugar. It's very bad for him, and it's making him sick. But no matter what she does, she can't get him to stop doing it, right? And so she's like, you know what? He loves Gandhi. Gandhi is his hero. I'll take him to see Gandhi. I'll have Gandhi tell him to stop eating sugar, and then this should be fixed. So they wait in line for a really long time to see Gandhi. They finally get up to the top, and they're, to the beginning of the list, and there he is. And they're like, oh, Gandhi, we're so happy to meet you. You're amazing. We love you. We love your leadership and your guidance. And she said, so here's the challenge. My son, he's eating sugar. It's making him sick. He needs to stop. Would you please tell him to stop eating sugar? And he said, okay, I see. So Gandhi said to the mother, please bring your son back in 2 weeks. She's like, what? I waited in this line forever. Why to come back in 2 weeks? Okay. So but it's Gandhi. So she's like, I know that he's, I know he's good for it. I know that he's this amazing leader. So I will do what he says. So she leaves. They come back in 2 weeks. They're waiting in line for, Gandhi again. He sees them. He motions them forward. Says, oh, please come forward. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad that you noticed us. We're back. You told us to come back in 2 weeks. And he's like, yes, I remember. Of course, I remember. Thank you so much for coming back again. And he looks at the boy and he says, son, you must stop eating sugar. It's bad for you. It's not good for your health. It's hurting you. Listen to your mother. Please stop eating sugar. The boy's eyes get big and he says, okay, Mr. Gandhi. Yes, I will. I promise I will stop eating sugar. And so the mother's like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for, doing this. Life will be so good now. And she turns to walk away and she stops and she turns back to Gandhi and she says, so Mr. Gandhi, why did you not tell my son 2 weeks ago to stop eating sugar? Why did we have to come back? And he said, oh, yes, madam, 2 weeks ago, I was still eating sugar. So his integrity was so high, he would not tell someone to do something that he would not do himself. right? So if all leaders, right, followed the same example, right, of incredible integrity, you know, how amazing would our world be? It would be incredible. So that's my mission, to help, right, to help leaders be the best that they can be, so that they can motivate and inspire, create that ripple effect, right, with everyone around them.
That's amazing. What a great story. I hadn't heard that one before. I've got a question, and I feel like it maybe could be a little controversial, but I've worked in single gender environments and I've worked in mixed gender environments. And so I feel like in that process, I've observed some things. So I wanted to ask you, as somebody who works with leaders, in what way do you see women and men functioning differently in leadership?
Yeah, good question. So, you know, most of my background is with men, right? I worked in technology. So, right, I worked with the majority, right, male leaders, and, you know, basically sales teams full of lots of guys, not so many girls. But that changed over time, right? And more women got into technology. But I think, you know, in terms of leadership, I think there are some differences. I think that both have good qualities, right? Sort of in different ways. And one size doesn't fit all. Like, all women aren't the same, all men aren't the same, right? People come in all different shapes and sizes in terms of their leadership styles and how they do things. I do think that women tend to often have maybe a little bit higher empathy. And so the connection that they have with their teams often can be maybe a little bit of a deeper relationship. You know, I think that women can be intuitive in ways that sometimes men just are not. Not that, again, some men are incredibly intuitive and, you know, sort of really lead from the heart. But I think that, you know, women are really good at, you know, generally, you know, sort of the empathy, collaboration, working together, making sure everyone's voice is heard. I see a lot of women really good at that. You know, men, sometimes they have a little bit thicker skin, and they don't let things bother them, or, you know, sort of like they can compartmentalize a little bit better, right? And sometimes that serves them really well too. So what I like to do with leaders is find out what is their unique set of, you know, sort of skills and qualities. And then how do we invest in that and make it even stronger, right? And if there's things that are like roadblocks or obstacles, how do we manage around them? Or how do we form partnerships with people who do have the qualities that we don't possess, right? So that 1 + 1 equals something much greater than 2. There was a group that I was working with last week, a really cool medical company that's doing like home health for seniors. It's, you know, just launching in Atlanta and then Chicago, and they've got a bunch of other markets that they're expanding into. And I was working with the CEO and then his 4 direct reports. And it was like one of the most beautiful teams I've ever seen in terms of diversity. Everybody brought something different to the table. And I was like, you know, Jeff, like, you did an amazing job of building this team, because look at, you've got basically all the bases covered, right? You've got people who are really good at strategic thinking. You've got people that are amazing at execution. You've got others that are really good at the relationship side. And then you've got others that are really great at influencing. Like, what, and it was only 5 people. Like, what an amazing job. And so that's what I think, like, great leaders also look to maximize their results by creating really diverse teams around them, where everybody brings something different and they get to bring that into the work environment, and that those contributions, right, absolutely produce like amazing results.
That's excellent. I really appreciate that positive spin for both genders. I feel like people tend to skew one or the other, so it was really great to hear that, like, kind of more tapestry together. How do you see men and women using coaching differently as they're coming to you for their leadership training?
Oh, well, you know, it's interesting. You know, what I find is that women sometimes have a harder time investing in themselves. Men are pretty good at it usually, but women sometimes, like, it's like if they have a choice between, you know, maybe spending money, their own money, right, on coaching versus something for their children or someone else in their family, sometimes I find that can be a little bit of a challenge. Not, again, not true for everybody, but I think sometimes women can find it a little bit more difficult to invest in themselves. Men don't typically have that challenge. They're like, I know what I need in order to help me get to the next level, and I'll get there a lot faster with coaching, right? And it's, true for men and women, right? When you have someone helping you, and this, right, Elizabeth and Jeff, I'm preaching to the choir here, but when you have someone beside you helping you, right, go after the goals, go after the skills, go after the knowledge that you need to develop, you're going to get there so much faster, right, with a coach or with a consultant or someone to help you than you would ever get, on your own. I think like even big companies, I remember when I worked for companies that hired consultants versus those that didn't. And they're like, why do we need consultants? Like, we already have all the knowledge here. But I think sometimes that objective third party can help you see things in a different way. Maybe it is sort of like, you already knew, but you didn't really know what to take action on. And that's where I think like having this valuable knowledge and insight from the outside, that can be really valuable and help people move forward a lot faster than if they were just trying to do it all on their own.
Yeah, those are great points.
Yeah, and that tees up perfectly to the next question, which was when should someone hire a coach, and how do they know if they need a coach?
Yeah, well, I think, it's very interesting the way that I found out about coaching. So I had a great coach, Margot. Margot was awesome. I'm still good friends with Margot. And, I just got lucky. Like my boss said, hey, we've got these coaches available. Anybody want one? And I was like, sure, I'll take one. What is that? I don't know exactly what that means, but I'll take one. I'll see what that's all about. They're going to help me get better, and they're invested in me and helping me grow. That sounds pretty cool. And so I started working with her, and some of the advice that she gave me, like I still think about today. I share it with my clients today, right? And one of them was like, I actually just shared this in a recent magazine article that I'm in. And they were asking for some of the best advice you'd ever received. And one of the things she said to me was, if you were on 60 Minutes right now, would you be proud of what people are seeing? Like, are you acting in the way that you'd want to act? Are you being portrayed, right, in the manner that you'd like to be portrayed? And I always think about that, like, if someone was watching me right now, would I be proud of how I'm showing up and how I'm behaving? And if the answer is no, then don't do it, right? Whatever the thing is that you're doing, whatever you're about to say, like zip it, don't say it. But if you would be proud of it and you do think it's the right thing, and you think it would be valuable and helpful for people, then go for it, right? And have your 60 Minutes moment. So I think when people want to achieve more, right? They want to get better. I mean, it's like in sports, we all have coaches, right? Constantly like evaluating what we're doing. How could we swing faster, better? How can we connect with the ball better? Whatever, it might be from a sports perspective. Why would we not do it, right, in our business lives? Like, we spend way more time in business than anything else, right, other than with our family. And so why wouldn't you want to be the best that you could be? And the way to be the best that you can be is by investing in yourself. And so hiring a coach is a great way to get there so much faster than you would have gotten there on your own. Can you read great books? For sure, right? Can you talk to other leaders that are really successful? Absolutely. And I highly recommend doing all of that. But if you really want to make progress very fast and have it be 100% focused on you, hire a coach, because I am in it 110% for every single one of my clients. I often find that I want more for them than they even want for themselves. And I can help them up level, right, to this new place, this higher goal, this higher level of achievement, because I believe in them and I help them see what is actually truly possible. And so hire a coach already.
That's great advice. And I think it's actually timely for a lot of folks that are trying to struggle with this. And even now, when people are trying to say, okay, maybe we need to circle the wagons and, maybe conserve our monies and, even trim back on sales and marketing and all those kinds of things you're talking about, investing in yourselves and your business before the next economic downturn, which we think is going to be around the corner. That seems like there's a lot of people doing that right now. But what are 3 things that, every business owner should maybe think about and maybe go against the grain of how they feel versus what's going to make sense.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think like circling the wagons, like to me, would you not want any advice then? So like if you're circling your wagons, wouldn't you maybe want to talk to some of the locals to find out like what's going on in this environment? What do I need to know? Right? What information don't I have right now that would be really valuable? Right? And so I think that's what, when you hire, a coach or consultant, someone from the outside, the perspective is different. We're not emotionally involved in whatever's happening within your environment. And so we can be a lot more objective, in terms of helping you see things as they truly are. I also think I've worked with thousands of leaders. I'm working with, hundreds probably at any given one time. And I'm learning from every single one of them. And I take that knowledge and I share. I don't share secrets, of course, but I share like the things that I learn when I see people doing things that make them really effective. Like I like to share that and spread that. And so you're going to get, sort of hot off the presses, advice and, here's what I've seen work and here's, that sort of thing that I think is really valuable. I also think, people don't get enough recognition ever. I can't tell you how many times when I am encouraging one of my clients and I'm recognizing them for something, I'm like, you know what? I just saw you show up as like this amazing leader who was really inspirational, who whatever, and look at the impact that it made. And they'll tear up often. And these are like sometimes big burly men, right? Like, guys that you wouldn't normally think of, in terms of getting emotional. But I think one of the reasons why that is they never hear this stuff, right? And so that's the other thing that I think your coach or your consultant can provide for you is, leaders, we all need to be doing better at this. And trust me, I'm doing my part and trying to encourage the leaders that I work with to do this. But we can provide, right, this place where they get recognized, they feel very supported, they've got someone in their corner, right? I have no hidden agenda or alternatives. Like I want you to be 100% successful and I'm going to cheer you on every step of the way. And I think that that is worth like so much to so many of the people that I work with. Sometimes it might be the other thing. Maybe they need a little bit more of the kick in the pants kind of thing, right? Some people are a little bit more motivated by that. I figure out, right, what works for each person, and then that's what we do. But I think recognition matters a lot. I think every leader could do more recognition. And the rule of thumb is 3 to 1. So for every critical piece of feedback that you give, you have to give 3 recognition positive, right, pieces of feedback, right? So there's your challenge, leaders. 3 positives for every 1 constructive criticism or what might be perceived as negative feedback.
If folks want to get in touch with you to learn more about how they can improve, their leadership and their organization, how can they best reach you?
Well, they can email me at Kimberly, Kimberly at aspirationcatalyst.com. You can also check out my website that has, listing of the services and also like a contact form out there too. That's www.aspirationcatalyst.com. Or you can call me at 773-909-4546. I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time today, Kim, and your information and guidance are very helpful. We greatly appreciate your expertise and hope that our listeners find it equally useful.
Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think this is a great service to, right, all the leaders and business people out there. I'm very excited about this show, and hopefully you'll have a lot of people gaining all the value from it that they can.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Ask the Experts.
I'm your co-host, Jeffrey Walk.
And I'm Elizabeth Finlayson.
Don't forget to send us your questions, suggestions, or ideas. As always, you can reach us at asktheexperts@gmail.com. That's asktheexperts, all one word, @gmail.com.
Have a productive week.